what are 3 systems that every landlord should have in place? Say the top one is screening criteria. Screening criteria and leasing workflow to make sure it is up to standard across the board, no judgment, no bias, not violating any fair housing laws, and it is a smooth process. When you get a good tenant as an applicant, you want to be able to really make sure they're going to have a smooth experience through it. The follow-up, the responsiveness, the communication is there. You don't want to lose that lead. And once you have that lead, the leasing workflow of how you get that lease signed and then the move-in process is critical. So the written screening criteria along with the leasing workflow is probably one system that's very important to have in place so that you can establish the relationship and get started on the right foot. Secondly, maintenance intake and tracking. So especially if you have a larger portfolio, but even if you have one house, you don't want to lose track of maintenance. You don't want to make it hard for them to submit maintenance. If the residents don't know how to submit maintenance or you're not responsive, you don't communicate well, they don't feel welcome or encouraged to submit maintenance, you're going to have large problems down the road with deferred maintenance. The landlord's going to want to blame the tenant when in reality, the tenant probably wanted it fixed. They just didn't feel comfortable reaching out. They didn't know how to reach out. They didn't know what the process was. So communicate in advance, be proactive, encourage maintenance communication, and then it's still up to you and the lease as to what you have to fix or the timeline that you fix it on. And you do that based on what's reasonable, but you still want that open communication there. So maintenance intake and tracking is probably the second system you would want to have in place. The third system is financial reporting and management of cash. So this is a business. You want to treat it like a business. You want to have the proper financial reporting in place to be sure that this property actually is cash flowing. You want to be sure that you have the proper reserves for capital expenditures, like replacing a roof or an HVAC unit. You want to be sure you're tracking vacancy. So if you are self-managing, you might kind of say, well, this has been vacant for 2 weeks, but you track it and it's actually been 2 months. You might need to make a change and get a team in place to help you lease that thing. You want to also track renewal strategy. And that is these sort of like financial tracking reports help you understand how efficient you are with the management and finances of this rental versus just kind of winging it along the way. So create these financial metrics of like, what's your vacancy loss? How's that play out with like your renewal strategy, your capital reserve, and then of course your monthly P&L, your cash flow. See how those things are tracking. So if you have the screening criteria and leasing workflow, you have the maintenance intake and tracking system, you have financial reporting and reserve tracking, you're going to be in pretty good shape. I think those are good foundational systems to have in place.